All right, we are on. Welcome, everybody. I have a guest with me today. Karen is here to help us overcome some money mindset blocks. Such a huge one. I know when I started as an entrepreneur, I did not foresee how important that was going to be. That overcoming years and years and years of this real poverty mindset was going to be the number one thing that I would need to do to actually make it in a business.
Yeah, nobody expects it, do they?
I'm sure you must encounter that a lot. How
All
did you
the
get
time.
started helping people with these things?
Yeah, so my background is I was in the traditional investment business for about 25 years. And during that time, we had so many women coming through our doors who were going through some sort of life change, whether it was a death or a divorce, or even wanting to start a business or do something like that. And they honestly did not even know where to begin. And it absolutely broke my heart to see that happening. And there is nothing more heartbreaking to see somebody, she's in her 60s and realizing she does not have enough to get through her retirement. And we all have these retirement dreams, but we forget the key piece of information is how to fund it. And then when we find out we are actually our biggest stumbling block to actually making it happen, that's when I decided to leave the traditional investment business, start a company. It's called Financial Literacy for Her. And I started with my partner, Erica Neal. And we really wanted to focus on mindset because there are lots of products out there that really discuss, like the practical matter of finance. But the problem is 80% of it is mindset. So once you have the mindset down, it becomes a practical matter. And so that's why, we wrote our book and, it's called Mind of Gold, A Girlfriend's Guide to Financial Freedom. And we put Mind of Gold very intentionally because we want your mind to be of gold. Because then once you meet with your financial advisor or all the people, the service providers in your universe, you know where you're going and what you want, what your dreams are. And so that was the whole intention of what we wanted to do with this company and how we want to help others in the marketplace.
Yeah, because then it's easy. Once you
Yeah,
do the
it
hard
is.
part of the mindset, the rest is just, like you said, it's just step by step, the practical stuff. That's the easy part.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing too is this isn't our exact topic today, but it's very important to the topic. And that is if you don't know what your purpose is or what your gifts are, it really can be a huge stumbling blocks and that's part of the thing we really work with our clients to help them uncover who that is, because alignment is so important. One of the biggest things I ask is, do your finances line up with what your purpose is? So, and a lot of times, I take people, and that could be another podcast for another day. But often what happens is I ask people is, are your finances going to get you to where that dream is? And then the answer is almost always no. And then, so the big piece is discovering what are my mind blocks that have kept me from getting there. So that's how we got to this specific topic.
Yeah, and even figuring out what your dream is, where you want to be going is a big challenge.
It
I
is
know it
because,
took me many years to find a purpose, and once I found it, I was like, wow, this feels so good to finally feel like I'm in the right place, I'm in my element, I have a talent for
yeah.
something. Like, I've been missing out on that my whole life.
Yeah, and so many of us live our life for somebody else's dream for ourselves or trying to prove a point. Like for me, I can now prove to my dad I can do math, And so I did that, check that box 25 years later, and now I get to help women ignite their dreams. That's what I was really called to do, And so, and a lot of us will, especially if we had a parent that was in a specific industry, is like, okay, go down that path because you have those genetics to say to go that way. And it's like, okay, well, here I am. And then you go in midlife and say, wait a minute, I'm living a joyless life. And sometimes you even have a ton of money in your bank account, but you're still living a joyless life. And that's really where it gets confusing. And
Yeah.
so that comes down to, well, when you're walking out in your purpose, that's where joy comes from.
Yeah, when you're poor, you're thinking that money, that's going to solve it all. And it's hard to believe that just having money in the bank is not going to check that inner fulfillment check mark. It's not enough.
Yeah. Money is a tool. It's a tool. You save it, you spend it, or you invest it. And, it's, in fact, I was just talking to somebody last week, and he was saying, and I was telling him about this, and he said, well, why wouldn't you be happy if you had all this money? And I'm like, sadly, the headlines tell us that that's not the case. And there are a lot of people who don't have a lot of money who are crazy happy. So it is a tool, and it helps you, when you know what your dreams are and what you need, that's a tool to help you fund your dream versus to be the answer. It's just a means to an end.
A means to a great end.
Yes, exactly. To your happy ending. At least in this
I definitely relate to that, like doing something in your life to prove a point to somebody else. And we don't talk about that enough. I don't think that my parents ever set me up that way, but I had that internal feeling of like, I really want to prove myself. I want to prove myself to my dad, who's wildly successful in his field. And I'm so different, and I could never follow in his footsteps. And for a long time, my only goal was, I want to be making the same amount of money as my dad, because then I'll feel successful.
Yeah. And most people I talk to, particularly women, well, actually men and women too, right? I'm so glad that my 19-year-old son, well, he's now 20 years old, his father is a doctor. And when he went to school, he's like, well, I'm great at math. I'm great at science. I might as well be a doctor. But you know what? I actually took him through all my women's exercises and all the things about discovering your dream. And he's completely left the industry. And it's been so exciting to see him at 19 he just changed at 19 and now 20, stepping into who he was called to be, because he's willing to go and explore, because it's a matter of exploring too, and just getting rid of those things, that, those blinders you have on, and the voices, whether it's somebody else's voice or our own voice. And it's often,
there's nothing worse than saying, well, I may as well do this. Like, even if it's something you have a talent for, if it's not what's lighting you up, like, forget it.
Yeah, because you're just in default mode, right?
So what can you tell us today to help us figure out where our money blocks are and what to do about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me share my screen, and I have a presentation.
Test out this slide thing. I haven't done this before, so.
It says share screen. We'll see if I can do that. Share.
I'm going to try switching this layout. I think.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I will get what I want up. So, okay. That is not the presentation. Are you seeing my screen right now?
No.
Okay, well, that's actually good, because
it's a whole wrong thing.
It was not what was supposed to be showing. Okay, so share. There we go. Share entire screen.
Fingers crossed.
Share. Oh, I had to click on yes. Okay.
Oh, I see you.
There we go. And now, hopefully, can you see my screen, my presentation?
Yes. Now we can see it.
Excelente. So, what are we going to talk about? What are your money blocks? That's what this is billed for, and that's what we'll talk about. So whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become our reality. Earl Nightingale said that, and it's so true, because 90% of what drives us is going on in our subconscious mind. And only 10% of are we aware of what's going on in our conscious mind. So what happens is people have so many issues in their with money, and they say all the things in their mind. They know all the right things to say about money, but their life is not reflecting that at all. So we need to really dive down into our subconscious. And so that's part of what I'm going to do today, is help you dive into that, help recognize patterns, that sort of thing.
Very nice.
So yeah, so we are about to blow our minds open and learn more about our money blocks. And let's step into freedom, get rid of those barriers. So our money messages come from our childhood. There are positive messages. One is we can use money to make the world a better place. Money is good because it provides us with what we need. And often you see your parents have calm, constructive conversations about money. Well, about 99% of the world belongs on the other side of the slide.
I was going to say, is there anybody that's on that side?
No, exactly. And if you are, you probably won't even be listening to us, right? So I just had to give it to do. It's, one of the things you do with learning is point of contrast. So what's the other side of that? Believing money is evil and rich people are greedy. Or I wonder who they had to take advantage of to get that job. Or you see your parents fight about money all the time and you say, you make a vow, I will never talk about money again. And so a lot of times, if you go back and think about what were the money conversations, what were the attitudes around money when you were growing up, that is when you can really start thinking about the things that you told yourself and the ideas, the conclusions you drew about money. Mm-hmm. So money blocks, just a definition, is a series of thoughts, feelings, or behaviors that get in the way of you and accomplishing financial success. So signs you have a money block: you feel like you're doing everything right, but getting nowhere. Or you have the knowledge and the wants, but not the results. You self-sabotage opportunities to make more money, and so many people fall into this trap. You jump into freelancing without a plan. You constantly say, I'm bad with money. Our words have power. We avoid looking at bank statements, or we overspend on our credit cards. Now, again, some of the things I already alluded to, the questions to ask yourself are, what do you say about money? Do you have a positive, negative, or confused tone when discussing money with friends or family? What do your friends and family say about money? That's very important to think about. And are you surrounding yourself with people with a positive relationship with money? And one of the questions that you can also ask is, when you talk to people who are in your inner circle, ask them, when you hear me talking about money, what do you hear? Because sometimes we have no idea what we're saying. And some, we've heard this, we've had this personal experience ourselves. We've heard somebody have a really bad attitude about money, but they didn't even realize it. So it's a matter of hearing, what are the things you say? And how do you feel when you spend money? Do you feel guilty? Or is it like an endorphin rush, that adrenaline rush when you spend money? That also tells you a little bit. What's that?
Or both. I don't know. I get the endorphin rush and then I feel guilty.
Well, yeah, and that often, and that's usually the case. But some people, they really struggle with spending money because, it's a real poverty mindset. And then, a lot of times you get that adrenaline rush because, a lot of times it might be filling a void for where don't have happiness. And so you can go get that, as they call it, retail therapy, right? That's what that's about. The money scripts, those are lies we tell ourselves both consciously and subconsciously, and the behaviors we adopt to support them. So I'm going to describe to you some of the behaviors to recognize and to kind of see what category you fall into. So the first one is money avoidance. The money blocks associated with this are: we have less money and a lower net worth than non-avoiders. We tend to overspend, sacrifice our well-being for others. We hoard, avoid looking at bank statements, and have trouble sticking to a budget. When we believe money is bad, I don't want to say we, they believe money is bad. And avoiders sabotage their own financial success in an unconscious effort to save, to have as little as possible. And again, this comes often to the fact of you've made some conclusion about people with money, what you think about wealthy people. That usually gets down to it. So if you've seen somebody hurt somebody you love or other people, often you make a vow very early on to say, I don't want to hang on to money because that will make me a bad person. And so that's something that I often find when talking to people, why it's hard to hang on to money.
I definitely relate a lot to that one. I'm curious to see what the other ones look like too.
Yeah. So, in some of the scripts you say are, I don't deserve money. Money is the root of all evil. Wealthy people are corrupt. Having a lot of money makes me a bad person. And, yet they believe money would solve all their problems. and go back and forth between hating money and wanting more of it. And so many people fall into this category. And that was me for many, many years. Now, the other one is money worship. The money blocks here are: you believe that money is the key to happiness and the solution to all their problems. They believe that they never have enough money and that they will never be able to afford all they want in life. Worshippers tend to overspend attempting to buy happiness, get trapped in credit card debt, and have lower income and net worth. Some of the associated money scripts with that are: I can never have enough money. Money will give me the meaning of life. If you aren't that person, you probably know somebody who has this life view. The more money I have, the happier I will be. I can never be happy if I'm poor. If I had more money, things in my life would be better. Now, money status is another one. And that is they believe their self-worth is determined by their net worth. They overspend trying to convince others they are financially successful. Or they normally make less money and have lower net worth. They are most likely to spend compulsively, be financially dependent on others, and lie about spending and gamble. Some of the associated money scripts there are: I'm only successful as the amount of money I make. Or others will like me if I have more money or nice things. Now, money vigilance, this one's an interesting one as well. This is somebody who has a lot of money. Their behaviors are: they are watchful, alert, and concerned about their financial well-being. They believe it's important to work hard for money and save and use credit wisely. They don't gamble or overspend. However, why are they in this presentation? Is because the problem is when they take savings and frugality to the extreme and have a difficult time spending or enjoying the fruits of their labor. Some of the associated money scripts for that are: I can't trust anyone with money, or people only want me for my money. I shouldn't spend money on myself or others, or giving to the poor encourages laziness, or if you have nothing, then you have nothing to lose. So I'm sure everybody wants to know, what's the important question? Okay, now I've identified what my money blocks are. What are the scripts I'm telling myself? What are some of the things I can do to overcome them? First is admit them. Bringing those subconscious scripts into the consciousness. As I said, most of our behaviors are coming from our subconscious. And so once we admit them, you can't deal with something if you don't know it's there, right? I mean, that's the classic, the classic issue is deny. As long as you have denial, you're going to keep doing it and keep getting in bad patterns, that whole vicious cycle. And we want to learn to moving into a virtuous cycle. Adopt an abundance mentality. An abundance mentality says there is enough for everyone. Scarcity mentality says there's only enough for a select few. Now, on this as well, on this abundance mentality, this is both for money as well as skill sets or anything in life. But this is where I come across it the most in my work, is about money, or that, let's say for instance, there are a lot of coaches in a lot of my networking group that target professional women. But you know what? There are, with an abundance mentality, that you believe that the right people for me, there are enough of them. And I'm not afraid of aligning with these other coaches, because there's skills that I bring that those other people don't bring. And we actually can be complementary. One of my favorite quotes is 1 + 1 = 3. And that's
actually just talking to somebody last week about the way that, some people try to close their sales by staying on the phone. And, once they get you on a call, they're not hanging up until they get a yes out of you.
Yeah.
And it's really scarcity mindset, because it's this huge fear that if this person doesn't become your client, then what if there isn't another person? And an abundant mindset is just like, let's get on the phone and see if we're aligned, if we're a good fit to work together. If not, no problem. Somebody else will be. It's so much more relaxed.
Yeah, and it's also, it is aligning with your purpose, right? The right people who need my skill sets are going to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, it's not going to work out well for either one of you. A lot of times, I spend a lot of time talking to my clients about the number of times I've thanked people for closing a door on my nose. I used to think about, oh, poor me, nobody wants me. And I used to have that mentality. And now it's like, thank you for letting me know that we're not a good match. Didn't have to be so abrupt, but hey, that's fine. But rather, just bless them and, let them do their thing.
Otherwise, you'll end up with a client who's a pain to work with because you're not well aligned and you're not communicating well. And like nobody wants to be drawing in clients who are a pain to work with.
Well, absolutely. And, some are a pain and some are just a mismatch. We're not.
Yeah, that's really what I mean. Like, not that the person is a pain, but just like if they're
Well,
not the right
but there are those two. Yeah. And not everybody was made for us, and it's finding those right people. And that kind of leads us into the second point, which is surround yourself by abundant-minded people. I mean, our tribe is so important about who we surround ourselves with. And do they also, are they pouring these positive messages into you? Because as you know, when, you go through life, you're going through your business, you're going through whatever matters to you, is you're going to trip, you're going to fall, things are going to happen, you're going to have bad days. Not everybody has, you can't have good days every day. Is your tribe going to be there to remind you who you are and what you said you wanted to do and love you enough to help, to help lift you up? And sometimes you need a hug too, and that's what a tribe's good for too. Is this a tribe that will do that for you? Do you have that trust, and do you have that kind of relationship? And if you don't have that, that's something you really need to start seeking, because when you have that safety, that's when you can really kind of be vulnerable and go for it. And, the third one is drop victimhood. Just because you were born poor doesn't mean you weren't created to thrive. In fact, a lot of times if you were born poor, that's all the more incentive to say, I want to do better. And I want to be able to step into what I need to do, because you can make money when you are stepping into what you're supposed to be doing. And, and because otherwise it just becomes an excuse, and you just keep yourself there and say, well, and it's just kind of like a generational thing. I'm in generational poverty and I accept that. We don't have to accept that. That's what was, but you have the power to do something about it and change that. The other one is to rewrite the script. Your new belief might look something like this: money supports my happiness. Money is a tool that I use to do good in the world. And whenever you feel your old belief creeping up, make the conscious decision to stop in your tracks and say your new money belief out loud, like you own it.
That's a good one, because those old beliefs do, like they're persistent, keep coming back up.
Exactly. And so, and there's a couple other techniques that you can use as well. Bedtime affirmations. You can write down a new belief on a piece of paper and keep it near to your bed and read it aloud as you drift to sleep. They've done studies to show that whatever you're thinking about before you go to bed is what your brain will process first. So if you are trying to adopt new beliefs and overcome those lies, tell your brain what it needs to start thinking and assimilating. I always talk about, I have all these files in my brain. It's like, okay, which file do I have it in? So let's create a new file. And when, you get the positive files, they will start, as, doing the purge, getting rid of the old files so you can replace them with new ones. And, also while you're sleeping is when our bodies heal, and our minds are part of our bodies. And that's when, we're asleep, and that our obnoxious voices we have, that, that thinking brain that says that, that we're not supposed to be doing this, or all the 900 reasons why this won't work. When we're sleeping, those have been bypassed, especially if we've told our brain what to think before we go to sleep.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-sabotage voice in your head that panics as you start getting more successful.
Yeah, and that's really interesting too, because a lot of times, people stuck in victim mentality will be blaming other people for those voices. But if we're honest, we had a choice to agree with it. So And then our voice is agreeing with that as well. So, you know, when we're taking accountability and said, I have the power to create my own my own scripts in what I'm going to be doing in the future, that's where it's really empowering. And you can start in, I'm a dreamer, so I love it because I actually turn them into dreams. So that makes it even more fun for me.
It can be scary. It can be really scary. Like, it sounds like so easy, you know, just start saying affirmations. But like, I had one of my clients was a manifestation coach, and one of the things that I remember most that she would teach people is that our brains are trying to keep us in our comfort zone because they view that as like, we know this is safe. So as you're stretching, you're growing outside of your comfort zone, the brain is freaking out, like, please come back where it's safe. And so that's what we're kind of, I don't want to say fighting, because that's such a strong, like, you know, it's not your antagonist. Your brain is trying to be helpful. And so,
well, it's doing its job. It's just being obedient, you know, and that's, and also that's something to also say, keep your affirmations positive. Because if you say, I am not a fill in the blank, our brains actually don't hear not. So always put it into the positive, because our brains were designed to follow our instructions. So they're just being, you know, they're just being an obedient to the master of our voice. And so when we understand that, that's when we, you know, we can get our brain working for us and not against us anymore. And, you know, we can be compadres versus adversaries. And, you know, one of the last techniques that's really important too is visualizations. So when you start visualizing what you want to do, and how you want to describe yourself in the new ways you want to think about money and the new attitudes, visualize what your life would look like. Visualize your attitude. I mean, just as I'm talking about it, you can even see me lifting it up because I'm visualizing it as I'm speaking to you. And so, you know, when you incorporate all the senses, that's really when it really has the highest chance of really taking. Because all your being, even again, your body, stand up straight, say, I believe it. I'm confident. I believe what I'm saying. And some, you know, a lot of times they say, you know, the longest trip is the 18 inches from your head to your heart, right? And sometimes you got to say it, let the words lead, but then tell the rest of your body, if I agreed with you, how would the rest of me behave? And that's how you can start, you know, because again, you can just say affirmations, people do it, you know, and it's like, okay, world peace. Okay. Not happening. Right. And so, you know, but when you come into something very, very realistic and something that you believe, because if you don't believe it, there's a disconnect. And that's where sometimes, you know, like you're saying, there can be this dissonance there. But when you start believing it and you tell your body, again, I can tell my shoulders, I can tell my chest to believe it sometimes before my head does, but start walking it like you believe it. And that's really where you'll start owning it. So, you know, if you have a healthy relationship with money, what would my life look like? Would I be yelling at money? And, you know, and when my bills come in, what would be my attitude? It'd be like, oh, that's awesome. I can pay my bills. You know, and I'm so grateful for this electric bill, because without that, I couldn't have the lights on at my house. You know, I thank you for that mortgage, because without that, I wouldn't have a roof over my head. And be grateful for your bills. And when you start putting out that spirit of gratitude over your bills and your money, and thank God that I have this money that's going to be able to pay for that, and be grateful for that, that's really how you can start shifting your gears with your money attitudes.
Those are fantastic tips.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they have a huge impact. You know, it's interesting, because whenever, you know, you're a coach, often you say, have I actually done these myself? And one of the reasons I can speak to these is because many of these I've been on both sides of it. So I know that it works, and they're really powerful.
Yeah. I, like I said, was so surprised by how much the mindset is crucial to the success in business. Just, and the way that it keeps on coming up. You know, I think, oh, I worked really hard on my money mindset, and now I'm good. But it's
still
a work in progress, and keeps getting better, but I have these regular freakouts. It's like every Friday I end up calling my own business coach, like, I'm scared about this and I'm freaking out about this and what if I can't do this? I think
Yeah.
the weekend freaks me out because it doesn't have the like I can just work all day and not think about it. The weekend.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why it's important to really unpackage it, because we've got our money scripts, and then the other thing, our other chapter, we talk about what are my excuses, and then again, what's back to my purpose. And I say that a lot, but it's really important to like have a vision of where you're going to be, and then money is the tool. It's just a tool.
I love that. Fantastic.
It's not an object to be sworn at or hate or begrudge, right? It's because it's you have relationships with all sorts of things. We talk about relationships with people, but you do have a relationship with money. It's something that until we're done with our time here on this big rock in the sky, we're gonna have to deal with money. And so you could either hate it or embrace it.
May as well embrace it.
Yep, absolutely. So
very cool.
Yeah, I mean, when you say I love money, just then don't make it your God, because that's the other extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And then you arrive, and that's also, then get me off on a whole nother topic about the dangers of always saying, when I get this, I'll arrive. When I get this, when I'll arrive, rather than it's a journey.
I remember my family talking about that a lot, that trap of thinking, well, once I get this next thing, then I'll be happy, or then I'll be prepared, or whatever, that like you can keep doing that your whole life and never get to there.
Yeah, and it's also, when a lot of times people will be setting out their goals and they'll say, I want to make X amount of money. And goals are good, but a lot of times they'll just say, I want more money, which is nebulous, because you'll never, as you start making more money, you keep wanting to make more money. So more money is just something, just, kind of like a rabbit you're chasing.
I always wonder that when I see these coaches who are like, well, my company hit $1 million and I don't really have any overhead. And I'm like, why are you here launching this new course? Like,
yeah, exactly. There's more to this story, I think.
Take your $1 million, enjoy it. Why are you here?
Right, exactly. Go live your life.
I think also, like, when my goals with money changed, it helped make it really practical. It took it away from the mindset, because at first it was, I want to be making as much money as my dad because he is the bar of this is what success means.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a goal that is so tied up with all of these mindset issues. Right, whereas now I'm looking at my husband's job is changing. We're not really sure. It's kind of in flux. So maybe I need to take over supporting us. So, okay, let's look at exactly what our expenses are and put in a buffer. And then here's your goal. And it's like, those are just practical steps.
Those are practical steps. And then what practical steps do I have to put into place? What's my strategy to be able to get there? And then it becomes a chasing money, saying I need more money is not a strategy. Mm-hmm. That's an outcome. And so, we're really working on the strategy and the tactics to say, what purpose will this money that I'm trying to get serve? Is this to put food on the table? Is this because I have a cause that matters a lot to me and I want to be able to make more money so I have access to give to them? Or am I doing this because I want to leave a legacy for my children, or a trust, or, so also understanding where your money has a purpose. And it really, and one of the big things, especially for people that the majority, I think it's only 30% of people actually have a budget. I think that's the latest stat. So yeah, it's very, very low. So since so many people who are listening to this may fall into that, even though they may not admit it. One of the biggest things is every dollar has a job. And to think about what's its job. So it's just like a worker bee. and getting you to where you want to go and help you achieve your goals versus to be, the love of your life. So, the love of your life or the enemy of your life, right?
Right.
It needs to be
Put
in the
so
middle.
much emotion into this
It
tool.
is.
It's so strange.
Yeah. And so that's how you take the emotion out of it, is by giving it a job.
That's a great tip too. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on today and giving us great advice. And you
My
talked about your book, Mind of Gold, which is available on Amazon. And then
Yeah, this is what it looks like, Mind of Gold. We also have a workbook. The most common thing people say about this book is that it's very practical. And in fact, I just spoke to a professor at the University of Kentucky, and they're going to actually start using it in one of their classes because she bought this for her daughter and she was amazed how practical it was.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is quite an endorsement.
Yeah, and we just got hired by University of Texas as well and we're doing this for their veterans. And so it's very exciting. That's, like I said, it's very, very practical. And we don't get in there and, we're not there. Our goal isn't to beat you up. Our goal is to hold your hand. And, and so our online courses, there's all sorts of learning types. And so we've got the workbooks, so you get lots of practical, you get a practical opportunity to practice what you learned in the book. And then the online course is basically the book as a video course. And so a lot of people do all three because the more, the more type of learning you do, the higher chance you have of letting it stick. But yeah, you can get that at our website, finliteracyforher.com.
So it's Fin, like short for financial, finliteracyforher.com.
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. We've got that in the description as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful today.
I am very glad that this worked out, and now I've tested out doing slides in the podcast.
Now we know we can do that. See, you just expanded your repertoire.
All right. Well, I'm going to end this here, and thank you everybody who has stuck around and watched.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.